As you know, lately we've been doing a free class code at the beginning of every video I've been doing on YouTube. So if you haven't checked out the class code below, definitely check it out the description so you can get some classes for free. So every now and then I get the question, what level am I at? Am I a beginner? Am I an intermediate, advanced? Am I professional? And so on and so forth. I think one of the first questions you should ask yourself is, what is your goal with rock sharky? What is your goal with belly dancing? Because if your goal is to be on a professional performance track or to teach or to do something that perpetuates the art form, then that question has more relevance. If your goal is to just enjoy it and just dance for fun and dance socially in your own home or maybe with a small group of friends, then I'm not sure that it actually makes a difference as to what level you are. If you finding out that level of which you're dancing at is beginning, intermediate, advanced, helps motivate you in such a way that you want to learn more, practice more, dance more, then that may be a great reason as to ask, what level am I at? So let's say that you want to teach and you are asking yourself, okay, am I beginner, intermediate, advanced? What do I need to do to get better? One of the first things you want to address is, how is your technique? How are you generating the movement? How are you executing the movement? How are you able, if someone were to ask you, able to teach someone else the movement? I think the more versed you are in your technique, the higher up level wise you are. And levels and beginning and intermediate, advanced, by the way, purely subjective and opinionated, because you can have someone who is only executing beginning technique and they are phenomenal, and then you can have someone who's executing advanced technique and it's okay, it could be better, right? So take this information with a grain of salt, because this is purely subjective and opinionated of a subject. So if you're asking yourself, okay, how is my technique? How am I doing it? Can I execute it well? One thing to kind of delineate whether or not you're just starting off, or you look like you're just starting off, or you're someone who's more refined in their movement, is to check either through video or asking your teacher, how does the movement come across with my body? Do I look fluid? Do I look seamless? Do I look like I have a good sense of control over the movement when you do it? Do you understand how to make it look on your body that works well with your body? These are concepts that help get you into the next level of dance with your technique. And on that note, when you're asking, what level am I, who are you asking this to? Are you asking your teacher? Are you asking yourself? Are you asking a fellow dancer? Because where you ask that question, you need to make sure you understand that lens and how that answer is coming across. Because as a teacher, if my student comes and asks me, what level am I at? I'm going to say, well, why, first of all, why are you asking me this question? And if it's, because I'd like to get in the intermediate, advanced level, then I might have a different response than if, I just want to clean up my technique and I want to know, do I look like I'm a beginner or do I look more advanced? Those are two separate answers of which I would give my students. So you want to make sure that you're very clear on who you're asking and how they're conveying back that message to you. One of the next things that you want to consider on whether you are a little bit more elevated in your knowledge of this art form is, how much history can you speak to, how much culture can you speak to about rock sharky and oriental dance and belly dance, as we call it, in general. If you have an introduction to your knowledge, I would say knowledge-wise, you're probably in the beginning stages, and all it takes is a little bit of research, talking to native people, and really tuning into your community and people who have a great wealth of knowledge. There are so many resources out there that you can do that and advance your level in this area. If you are someone who can I could probably write a page on a website of where history, of our art form comes from, the culture, the different cultures it comes from, and all that stuff, then in that realm, you would probably be considered more intermediate, advanced. So we talked about technique and we talked about history, culture, and now you're asking, what level are you? Depends on what matters to you with that question. Are you asking about your technique? Or are you asking about your knowledge? Because once again, you're going to get two totally different replies. Another thing to consider is, how much knowledge of music do you have? So let's say I ask you as your teacher, how many classic songs can you name? Or just name 3. And do you know the composers? Or do you know what the lyrics mean? Those are going to prompt different feelings of like, ooh, do I know that? Or yes, I know that. And I say that because the more exposure you have in this art form typically lends yourself to becoming a little bit more intermediate, advanced of a level. And I say that because when you're really actually just beginning out, you're not exposed as much. You don't have the time necessarily to invest to learn that information. And so it keeps you more at a novice level. So the more that you have time to actually dive into the music structure, instrumentation, regions of where music is coming from, then it can also probably give some insight into how advanced you are in your dance. Because with music knowledge, with culture knowledge, with history knowledge, it does impact your technique on how you dance and all that stuff. So when you gain all this knowledge, you have so many different facets that are really contributing to what level you are. You know, you want to take all those things into consideration because you want to look at the whole picture to actually give yourself an accurate answer. So if you don't have much information in these areas as a whole picture, along with the technique being a little bit more novice or a little bit less smoothly executed, then you're probably more on the beginning level. And as those things start to come into place, then you move along the ladder. And speaking of all of that, when you are more intermediate, advanced, and professional level and teaching and even considered a master instructor, you are able to put all these different facets of information together to make that beautiful picture in order to really present your dance in an artistic way, in an accurate way, in a way that honors and respects the culture that we are borrowing this from if you are a non-native person. So you want to not just be looking at, oh, can I do this move well? Well, that makes me a beginner, or that makes me intermediate advanced. Because to me, I don't think looking at one facet can give you that answer so cleanly. So a lot of people actually base what level they're at based on just technique alone. How are they physically able to execute the movement? And I don't think that's very accurate or very representative of what this art form is, because it's not just movement. So when you're asking yourself, look at the whole picture, see how other people whom you admire and respect, how they've put it together. How do they present to you? What kind of knowledge did it take for them to get there? And remember, we're always learning. So the spectrum is forever, to be honest. You're always learning, you're always growing, and trying to acquire as much information as possible. So don't be so hard on yourself if you feel like, well, crap, I don't really know very much. Now I think I'm a beginner. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is maybe you are a beginner in movement, but you're intermediate in music because you've been listening to it forever, but you just don't know how to dance to the music. Or then maybe in history and culture, maybe you're like super advanced, or maybe you're a beginner there, but you're very advanced in your technique. So when you're asking all the stuff, it's like, well, why are you asking that question? Remember, what's the goal? So that way you can accurately give yourself a response, and it gives you the information that will help you push yourself forward in the direction that you want. And of course, one aspect to consider is performance, right? Typically, not always, when you're learning and you go up the ladder, beginning, intermediate, advanced, professional, and all that good stuff, when you're performing, if you really want a well-rounded picture, choose, when you're asking someone that you admire to give you a proper response, then choose a piece of music that would represent all of the different facets that we've talked about, and even more, right? There's so many things, how to stage presence and how to connect with people, because Rock Sharky is a social dance, and it's something that we use to connect with people as well. So it's not, how do I do isolated, right? So a lot of this comes into performance as well. So when you're wanting a response and you're like, okay, well, I can send this person a video and maybe they can tell me, think about a performance that you can encapsulate as much as possible, all these different facets that could give yourself a more well-rounded answer. Thank you so much for taking the time with me today. Super appreciate it. If you haven't already subscribed to my videos, make sure you do. And don't forget, there's a free class code in the description below.